Hi, my name's Mark Neely, and I am a professor of English here at Ball State University, and I'm also a writer. My third book of poetry, Ticker, was shortlisted for the 2022 Indiana Authors Awards. I've always been interested in reading. I was a big reader when I was a kid, spent a lot of time at the library, checking out books, but I didn't really start writing poetry until probably high school. I remember a teacher gave me an assignment where we read The Great Gatsby, and I could either write a paper on The Great Gatsby or I could write a poem, and I figured the poem was shorter. So I wrote this poem, and I really enjoyed it, and my teacher praised it, and so that sort of like got me interested in it. My parents also had a few books of poetry on their shelves, and I would dig into those when I was a teenager. And when I got to college, I had some really amazing poetry teachers, including Bridget Pegeen Kelly, who's one of the best poets, I think, of the last 50 years. And she really instilled in me a real love of reading, writing poetry. And from there on, I was just writing pretty much all the time. I grew up in Illinois, Champaign, Illinois, which is about 3 hours from here. I was pretty familiar with Indiana. And I moved here for this job at Ball State 20 years ago. So I feel like I believe I've lived in Indiana longer than I've lived anywhere else at this point, so I definitely feel like a Hoosier now, and my children grew up here. And I think it's a wonderful place to be a writer. There's so much support for artists here. There's so many great writers in Indianapolis, but also at Notre Dame, at Purdue, in Southern Indiana. And it's a real vibrant poetry scene, but also like a humble one, I think. For me, Indiana has been amazing, and I find the landscape, interesting, inspiring, and definitely the people interesting and inspiring. So it's been a wonderful place for me as a writer. So my writing routine varies a little bit based on how busy I am with my job, and that is one great thing about my job is it tends to get a lot busier in the fall and the spring, and maybe a little bit less busy in the summer. So in my ideal world, I'm not an early riser, but I become an early enough riser to get my kids to school at 8 a.m. So I get the kids to school at 8, and then ideal routine is I sit down pretty much right away and try to do at least a little bit of writing. If it's a busy day, it might be 20 minutes. If it's not a busy day, it might be 2 hours. That's ideal. Some days it gets away from me just because of other obligations. I think the best advice for writers is to follow your curiosities and follow your obsessions, and don't be afraid to write about things that you think other people won't be interested in, because there's always people that are interested in the same things you're interested in. So I think that's a good one. Follow your curiosity wherever it goes, because if you're interested in something, you will make it interesting to other people.